You're listening to the Rachel's English podcast, made especially for non-native speakers, where we study the way Americans really speak. My goal is for you to listen to this podcast every week and sound more natural when speaking English and improve your listening comprehension. In today's episode, we're answering questions from you that have come in on my YouTube videos in the comments. I'm here with my husband David, who's going to help me answer these questions. If you'd like a free download of the transcript of this podcast, please visit my website, rachelsenglish.com/podcast, and search for this episode. It's absolutely free to download. All right, let's get started with the first question. David, can you read it for me?
All right, this is from Martin. He says, "Hey, Rachel, I'd love to ask you a quick question. Is there an SH as in she or a CH as in cheese in the word actually or actual?"
Okay, this is a great question. First of all, as I'm looking here at the comment that came in, I see that Martin has asked it and someone named Michael has answered it. And he says, "I'm not Rachel, but I'm a native speaker." And then he gives a great explanation about what he hears people say. So I just want to give a shout out to Michael and let everyone know that everyone is free to answer questions in the comments on my channel always. And I think that's great. I love seeing other people chime in with their ideas. Okay, but let's get to the question. The question is the word actually. So I looked it up in several dictionaries, and a couple of them had just one pronunciation. Actually. 4 syllables, and yes, with the CH sound like in cheese. Actually. The Merriam-Webster dictionary had this pronunciation, but then it also included a pronunciation with SH. Actually. So I think either of them are fine. They both sound okay, but I think the SH is more common. It's certainly what I use. What about you, David?
Yeah, I'm in stunned disbelief that you bothered to consult Mr. Webster. I think it's really clearly, if you're going by sound, it's SH. There's no,
Yeah, so David's saying, why even look it up in a dictionary when you hear native speakers do it this way all the time?
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's regional, actually. If I'm going fast, you know what, actually, that's fine for me. It's definitely SH.
But it doesn't sound weird if it's a CH, right? Let me try it. Actually. Does that sound weird to you? Actually.
That's when you want to slow down and emphasize a turn in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, but if it's just part of a sentence where it's almost a connector word.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that important of a word unless it's signifying a change.
Well, I mean, I would argue that it is often signifying a change, but that doesn't always have to mean that you've slowed down your pace. So,
I guess, well, yeah, I mean, I was saying to differentiate between clarifying what you're already talking about versus changing the direction of what you're saying.
But the moral of the story is either one is okay. SH is more common. I also want to say that the dictionary has listed it as 4 syllables, and it's much more common to do this as 3. So let me just slow down, break it down the way most Americans would say this word most of the time. So it's actually. There we go. Okay, David, do you have another question for me? So we're having problems with the name here because it looks like Russian characters, and I have no idea how those correspond to sounds.
Great. And you're the expert.
And I'm the expert.
So I'm going to say it's from Napa. And the comment is, "Wow, thanks, Rachel. Could you please shoot a video with sneak peek and tell me its meaning?"
Sure. Okay. Sneak peek is sort of like a preview. It's when something is coming soon and a little bit of it is released early so people can get an idea for it. For example, this would happen a lot with movies, shows. Here's a sneak peek of next week's episode.
You could say a teaser also.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's meant to get people excited about it. Yeah. So that's the meaning of sneak peek.
All right. Next one is from Saeed. And he says, "You're my bae in teaching English simply and effectively."
That was a comment on my slang, Summer of Slang video where I taught bae.
That's right. Saeed says, "I'm preparing for the IELTS exam, and it's based on British English. Can I use American idioms or slang during the speaking test?"
That's a good question. I think I would say idioms, fine. I think a lot of idioms are actually in both American and British English. As far as slang, I think I probably would say not to use it in a speaking test in that kind of situation. David, what would you say?
Wow. I guess I would agree with you. That's a hard question.
In a way, it shows like a mastery of the language, right? If you're
Yeah.
using slang and idioms. I think idioms are totally fine.
Yeah, I guess that's it's a good distinction.
Also, you do need to make sure you're using them correctly. An idiom that's, grammatically not matching up with the rest of the sentence or something might sound awkward, and it might be better just to leave that out than to try to throw it in for extra points.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's actually, if you are positive that you've got it mastered, go for it. But if not, you may end up making a pretty glaring mistake, and actually you could sound worse than you are by misusing an idiom.
David, you just used actually twice. Actually.
Was it an SH?
Yeah, you did it perfectly. You did it just the way we described it.
Great.
Okay, so Saeed, I think go ahead and do use idioms if you feel very comfortable with them. And probably avoid slang in that test.
Yep. All right. The next question is from Gerbart. And Gerbart says, "Please, how can I be your student permanently so that I can be able to ask you some questions? I need to learn American English."
Okay. And then here he signs it Gilbert. So his username is Gerbart, but his signed name is Gilbert.
Oh, okay. I see.
So Gilbert, great question. Right now, I have an online school called the Rachel's English Academy, and it is by subscription. So once you sign up, you are my student until you choose to cancel. And through that, I answer questions on the forums, the discussion pages within the school for each course. And then I also have a Facebook group where I interact with my students. So for anyone who's curious, that might be a great way to have, a little bit more of a consistent feedback loop with me. And I will put a link to that in the show notes.
All right. Next question from Tomasino. "Hey, Rachel, appreciate your job and all the time in here. I get 2 words confused and don't pronounce them fluently. The 2 words are Saturday and yesterday. It seems to be a problem for me to change the tongue position from ter to day, at least not so smoothly."
Okay. So the word Saturday and the word yesterday, and the problem is switching from the R sound to the D sound. Well, let's talk about the tongue position. So for the R, in Satur or yester, is tongue tip pulled back a bit so it's not touching anything. I also lift the tongue tip a little bit, so it's like lifted and pulled back. And this is a sound that you should be able to hold out. If you're unable to hold it out, then that's a sign that you're definitely not doing it right. And I always tell people with the R, it's very good practice to hold out the sound within your word. Satter. It just sort of helps you home in on the right position, make subtle changes, let your ear give your body some feedback there. So if your tongue is pulled back like that, backing up, tongue tip, backing up, then for the D, it comes forward and flaps against the roof of the mouth once. So that's the movement. It's from being slightly pulled back and up, not touching anything, to bouncing once against the roof of the mouth for the D. It's a flap here. So just practice that and definitely hold out the R sound first. It can help you concentrate on the flap that comes next and sort of clean up that transition. Saturday, yesterday, hold out the R. Saturday, yesterday. Try that as you're practicing. Also, he points out, I can make it in British English, which goes without the R sound. So like yesterday, I can see how that's a lot easier. The transition from R to a flap can be hard for sure. But there we've broken it down. And if you break it down as you practice it slowly that way, I think it will improve and it will become more smooth and natural for you.
Great. So the next thing that we want to talk about, and actually we won't say the user's name on this one, but somebody wrote, "Sir, how I respect your family. You are really an example for our society." And I think you wanted to talk a little bit about that comment.
Yeah, I did. So it's very common for people to comment on my videos and address me as sir. And of course, in my videos, I believe it's very obvious that I am a woman. And sir is used with men. And ma'am is sort of the female equivalent there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't particularly love ma'am, but that's for different reasons. I just wanted to point out here that sir is not something that you would use with women. This is not a way to address women. You can use ma'am or miss or Mrs. I think that they're all, I don't even know what I want to say about it. Ma'am feels kind of formal and a little stuffy. Like if I'm checking out at a store and someone says, "Here's your change, ma'am."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whoa, I don't know. It just sounds weird.
Yeah, they're more formal. Sir in particular, well, maybe ma'am too. They're a little bit antiquated also. I feel like they would have been a lot more popular.
Definitely.
In a different era.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I guess one thing I would say is it can always be left out. Like if you're wondering, well, should I use ma'am? Should I use a different word? You can actually just leave it out. Like if I was checking out and so it said, "Ma'am, here's your change," or "Here's your change, ma'am." It's not necessary to even use it. I mean, I guess it's being used to show politeness, but I don't know. It's a little formal.
Mm-hmm.
But the main point is don't use sir with women. I don't know why it happens so frequently, but it does show up on my channel a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next question is from Gavin. And Gavin says, "I'd appreciate it if you can help me compare go versus goal and so versus soul. I spent quite a bit of time practicing, but I still find it hard to pronounce them correctly. I'm a teacher of English in China."
Cool. I love hearing from other teachers. Okay, so go, G-O, versus goal, G-O-A-L. So the thing that's interesting to note here is the word goal is supposedly that has the same exact sounds, just with an L at the end. So we have the G consonant and the O diphthong, go. But I have found that the dark L does change this diphthong. So it's not go, goal. That's not how we say that word. We say it goal. Really, it's just the G and the dark sound. Goal, goal, goal. There's not much of an O diphthong really before the L. So for go, your jaw drops a little bit, your lips round for the diphthong. Jaw drop, then lip rounding. Go. But for goal, you make the G, you do drop your jaw a little bit, but then you're making a movement with the back of your tongue. Goal. The back part of your tongue moves back a little bit, presses down a little bit, and this makes a dark sound. Goal. Goal. So you will round your lips a little bit first, but then they'll relax towards the end for the L. Towards the end for the L. Go. Goal. I also think I have had students who have done an amazing job changing difficult pairs like this, changing how they pronounce them by listening over and over and over. I had a student from China once who didn't have a good I vowel like in sit. She always said E like in seat. So I made an audio file for her where I said minimal pairs like this: sit, seat. And she listened to them for about a week. And then she said, "Okay, I got it." And then she practiced it for a week, repeating out loud. And she came back to me that next week with a perfect I sound. I was actually blown away. So one thing you could do here is just practice a bunch of minimal pairs, listening, go, goal. And guys, if you're wondering, well, that's great, Rachel, where can I get the audio files for this? There's a site called forvo.com where a bunch of native speakers have uploaded themselves saying tons of different words. So you can download a bunch of those and put them together in your own audio file. Also, I just to make another pitch for my online school, I have thousands of audio files on my online school that do with a lot of minimal pair comparison. Because my online school is really all about training, not just learning the concept, but training it. So if you're having a tough time with a minimal pair like go and goal or so and soul, that's a great way to work on those.
All right. Our next question is from Joe. Joe says, hi, could you post a video of pronouncing millionaire and billionaire? I found it difficult. Thanks.
Okay, Joe, sure. Well, not a video, but I'm going to put it in the podcast. So these are 3-syllable words with stress on the first syllable. Millionaire, billionaire, millionaire, billionaire. I always think it helps with multi-syllable words like this to break it down and practice the stressed syllable and the unstressed syllable separately. Millionaire. So there I'm separating the stressed from the unstressed. So try that. Millionaire. Billionaire. Do that for a while and then put them together. Millionaire. Billionaire. Put them together in slow motion. Then do that for a while and then just try the word at regular pace. Millionaire. Billionaire. I think working with these words that way will help.
All right. So the next question is, could you please teach how to pronounce words that contain R and L at the same time? I can never pronounce the word rural. For me, it's just a sound like royal or loyal.
Okay, David did a great job pronouncing the word rural. It's a tough word. Actually, it's funny. A couple years ago, I did a series on my YouTube channel called Interview a Broadcaster. And I was interviewing a guy named Craig Melvin, who's a broadcaster for NBC here in the United States. And I was asking him if there were any words that he found it difficult to pronounce. And rural was one of the words he mentioned. So it's not just you. It's Americans too. So this word is interesting because we have the R consonant, and then the dictionary would say it's the vowel like in book or push, but it's not really. It's just really the R vowel. So we have R consonant, R vowel, R consonant all together. Rural. So there's sort of a re-emphasis of the sound that happens for the second syllable. Rural. Rural. And then we go right from that R into the dark sound. Rural. So if you have a hard time with the R or a hard time with the L, this is going to be really difficult. But for the R, lips flare a little bit, tongue tip pulls up and back a little bit. Roll. Re-emphasize the sound and then roll. Engage the back of the tongue to make that dark sound for the dark L. Now, this is also reminding me of an episode of 30 Rock. David, have you seen that show?
I have, yeah.
Have you seen every episode, do you think?
No.
So there's one where Jenna is cast in a movie and she's really excited about this side project. And the name of the movie is called The Rural Juror. And it's making fun of these words that have the in it, in them. And so people are asking her, they're trying to be supportive and they're like, oh, what's the movie? And she's saying The Rural Juror. And then the joke is no one knows what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can find a clip of that and I'm going to put it in the show notes.
That's great.
It's so funny. Rural Juror. And of course, she's like pronouncing it even more silly in the show to make it even harder to understand. Rural Juror. Rural Juror was the name of the movie. Anyway, I'll try to find a link for that, but it's hilarious. So the moral of the story is rural is not just hard for non-native speakers.
All right. The next question is from Cho. Hello, thank you for your good lectures. I have a question about a pronunciation of on hour. I can't hear on hour. I would like you to explain how to pronounce on hour.
Okay. So David's doing a great job pronouncing this quickly. It's on, O-N, hour, O-U-R. Well, here's the thing is that we almost never pronounce hour that way. We so frequently reduce it to er. So let's make a phrase that would use this. How about on our anniversary? So I would say that on our anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
On our anniversary.
Just sounds like the letter R.
Yeah, it does.
On R.
Yes, exactly. So it reduces. So honor. So your tongue touches the roof of the mouth for the N. Honor. And then it pulls back right away for the R consonant sound. Don't try to make a vowel there between the N and the R. Honor. On our anniversary. On our trip. David, what would be another phrase that would use on our last day of school?
Mm-hmm. It sounds exactly like the word H-O-N-O-R.
Yeah.
Honor.
Right. It's like stressed syllable, unstressed syllable. The sounds are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, I hope that helps, Cho.
All right, the next question is from Rena. Rena says, Rachel, please help me pronounce find that and like that. I find that they are difficult to pronounce fast. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, let's start with the phrase find that. David, can you help me find that piece of paper? Find that. What's happening to the D? It's getting dropped because it comes between two other consonants. We do that a lot with the D between two consonants. So I'm just saying find that right from the N consonant into the TH. Can you help me find that telephone number?
I want to find that article that my friend was talking about.
Find that. Okay, and then the other phrase was like that. I don't like that. I think I do a very light K release, like so light. I don't like that. Like that. Really light K before the TH. I don't like that. Oh, I like that. But it's really fast. So I can see how it would be hard to catch when someone's saying it. But the good news is with find that, there is a shortcut. You can drop that D. Okay, David, I think we have time for one more question.
All right, we have a question from Raphael for our last one. Raphael says, could you do a video on the pronunciation of the word certain? It sounds like it is a stop T, but I'm not quite sure.
Raphael, you are exactly right. It is a stop T. Certain. I'm stopping the air there. So certain, curtain, mountain, kitten, button. There's a whole bunch of words that have the sequence T, schwa, N. And I think this way that I've just pronounced them is the most common and is the most standard. Although definitely you will hear a light true T, certain, mountain, curtain. And you'll also hear a pronunciation where people do the stop and then they make more of an open vowel sound like mountain, kitten, button. I think that's maybe New Englandy. I'm not sure. I know someone from Connecticut who used to do that. I personally think that pronunciation sounds really weird. I would say stick with a stop plus the N sound, like curtain. Or if you're more comfortable, you could do a really light true T. But if you make too much of it, curtain, then it starts to sound a little bit strange. David, what do you think about the pronunciation? Do you prefer a stop or a light true T?
Stop.
Stop. More common, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
So actually, I have a video on how to pronounce the word mountain where I go over this, and I will link to that video in the show notes so that there is more to learn there. And also, that video was shot outside in the mountains in Colorado. So there's some good background to look at.
It actually was.
It actually was, yep. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast and to David for asking the questions that came in.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to talk to you guys.
Once again, if you guys would like a copy of the transcript, it is absolutely free to download on my website, rachelsenglish.com/podcast, and just look for this episode. On my website, you'll also find the show notes, which will contain links to related topics and videos. If you're not subscribed, please do make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever is your podcast software of choice. And if you're so inclined, think about leaving a review in the iTunes store. I would love to hear what you think of this podcast.